Hello and welcome to Daily Armour. Our verses today will be found in the book of Galatians, chapter number 5, verses 22 and verse number 23. Galatians 5, verses 22 and 23. And they say, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law." This is the fruit of the Spirit. And this fruit is fruit produced from the vine. Jesus is the vine. He's the source. Through the working of the Holy Spirit in our life, then these are the kind of fruit that we will produce as growth in our Christian walk with the Lord. This does not mean that this is fruit that you have mastered. It does not mean that this is fruit that you still don't need some help with. But that's why we're studying, that's why we're learning, that's why we're always going back to His Word for our source. He is the vine, and we are simply a branch. So let's look at the first one, and the first piece of fruit is love. And this kind of love is that sacrificial love. This kind of love is love that costs you. You do it because you love somebody. You do it because you want to do something for them because you love them so much and you want to express your love for them. Jesus did that when He died on the cross for our sins. He was expressing, He didn't just say that He loved us, He expressed His love, and His love for us cost Him. It cost Him death and on the cross. It cost Him great agony and pain when He was beaten for by His stripes we are healed, by His stripes. So it cost Him dearly to go through all this. He had to sacrifice so much just because He loves us. And when you are doing a sacrificial love for somebody, you are doing something for them, or you are having love toward them, and maybe they don't even love you back. Maybe that you have a love for somebody enough to pray for them, and they don't even like you. If they knew you were praying for them, they would say, "Don't you pray for me?" So that's which they can't stop you from praying for them, but you just have a burden for that person, and you want to pray for them, and you want for wonderful things to happen for them, like the love of Christ to come into their heart. And it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. You're going to have to sacrifice time in prayer for that person. So another way that we sacrifice is like as mothers do for their children. They sacrifice. A good mother, is going to sacrifice anything that she possibly could for the sake of her children. She wants the best for her children, so she's going to sacrifice. We sacrifice our time, we sacrifice our resources. We do that for the love of our child. We also do that for our spouses, for our friends, for our family members, for strangers. So it's talking about that sacrificial love. And when you do something for somebody, you are not expecting something in return. You are just simply expressing that love. Because if you expect something in return, that's not love. That's trying to be in control. You are trying to control that person. If you are doing things that you are requiring praises and accolades, or you want them to act a little bit different towards you, or something like that, you are trying to control that person. That is not sacrificial love. So think about, and ask yourself, like I have to ask myself, am I loving this person sacrificially? Am I loving this person without any expectation of anything in return? And ask yourself for the Lord to help you if you find that you are having trouble in that area. So the next thing I want us to talk about is the word joy. And this kind of joy is complete happiness that is not from within. It's not based on anything in your circumstances. Your circumstances could be good. Your circumstances could be bad. But you can still experience joy. That fruit can be produced in your life. And that joy will just come out, will just beam out. This happened to me yesterday. Very busy day. Just a lot of different things going on, working on several projects at the church. I had several errands to run around with Todd to get done, and lots of phone calls, lots of texting, a lot of different things going on with a lot of different people. And in the midst of all of that, I wasn't feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling overjoyed. And I told Todd, I said, I just absolutely, I can't explain it, but that I am just so full of joy. I about can't stand it. I just about, wanted to just scream and shout and I just couldn't hardly express it because I felt so much joy. He was doing that in my life. It wasn't anything to do with my circumstances. It wasn't anything within myself. I had a lot of reasons to not feel so joyful, but in the midst of all of that, I had joy. He was giving me joy in the midst of it. The next one I want to mention in verse 22 is the word peace. Peace is that kind of rest for your mind. Peace that you have things that you could be worrying about, but you're choosing not to worry about them. You have circumstances that need attention and require your time, but you are not letting it overwhelm you. You are not letting it control you. You are not controlled by all these things because God has given you peace in the midst of it. He is giving you rest. He has touched you in your mind to where you are at peace and you are not overwhelmed by the circumstances. He can do that in the midst of absolute crazy circumstances where you don't know whether you're supposed to turn left or right, if you're supposed to stop or go straight, if you're supposed to just sit or stand. When you don't know where you're coming or going, the Lord can give you peace in that, and He's the one that produces that in your life and gives you that peace. The next one we'll talk about in verse 22 is long suffering. Long suffering. I know I have had it in my past. I know the others that I pray for specifically, but especially I dealt with pain for a whole lot of years, several years that I dealt with an immense pain, and ended up needing surgery and all of that is so much better. And so I have a burden to pray for those that I watch be in pain. I pray for them because I still remember if I get that simple little twitch, like it's going to start coming back, it just upsets me terribly to think, how did I stand going through that all those years? How was I able to make it through a day? And it was part of perseverance and endurance. The Lord was building some endurance in my life. He was helping me to learn how to persevere through hard days and hard times and painful days. And, when you had to, it didn't matter how much pain you were in, you still had things that you had to do and you had to get through it. You were learning to be patient in the midst of it and to persevere and endure in spite of it. And so I still have things that I'm having to long suffer through. And these are things that are causing us, you're enduring even though that these are things in your life that are bringing you injury. They're bringing you disappointment. In the midst of a long-suffering person is not out there trying to figure out how they're going to avenge for what they've been wrong. They're not going to be out there trying to look at the situation and say, well, I'm going to get that person back, or I'm going to make up for this situation. They're just simply enduring and persevering and getting through it. And knowing that God is in full control and He knows everything and He is in full control. So the next one that I'm going to talk about, and it's found in verse 22 as well. We have three more in verse 22, but it's gentleness and goodness. And gentleness and goodness are very, very similar, but there are some slight differences. Gentleness is talking about moral goodness, and goodness is talking about generous goodness. So a moral goodness, if you're just morally a kind person in spite of, bad situation, in spite of a heated moment maybe, if you have integrity in the heat of an argument and you maintain your integrity, that you are being gentle. You are showing gentleness in the midst of that. Goodness is when you are doing something for somebody in a good manner. You are being generous. You are being a benefit to that person, in spite of maybe might even be the same person that has brought you discomfort or brought you harm, you are showing them you are doing something generous for them in spite of them, because we have to remember that that's what the Lord did for us, that he was generous and kind and long-suffering, patient with us. He was all these things that he did for us, and he still does that for us. So that's kind of the difference between gentleness and goodness. It's about a moral goodness and integrity versus an actual being a benefit to somebody and actually doing something nice for somebody, whether it's through your generosity, whether it's through something monetary, or whether it's your time or your service or something like that, that you are, that is the kind of the difference between gentleness and goodness, and they kind of go hand in hand. Our last piece of fruit in verse 22 is faith. And when I think about faith, I was just automatically thinking about the faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, but I liked how when I looked up the definition that it was really talking about somebody who is dependable. That faith, that faithfulness, faith, that piece of fruit, that's faithfulness, to be faithful. Whether you're trying to be faithful to your spouse, you're being faithful to your church, you're being faithful to your family, you're being faithful to your friends and your neighbors, you're being faithful on the job. Whatever kind of faithfulness that you are in the midst of, that the Lord wants us to be that kind of person that is found dependable in the midst of any of those situations. It gives that, it brought that word up in the definition, fidelity. So it's faithfulness, being faithful in every situation that you're placed in. You are going to be one of those that people can depend on. And that's the faith that's talked about, that piece of fruit. That's what that's talking about. And our faith to the Lord, we are going to be faithful to him, to his service, not just being busybodies, just doing a whole lot of things, but actually be faithful to him, faithful to pray, faithful to serve, faithful to read and memorize, and just going to him for everything, looking to him for everything, being faithful to him. No matter what everybody else is doing, no matter what the crowd's doing, you're going to be that person who remains faithful to the Lord no matter what. And then when we move on to verse number 23, we've got two more pieces of fruit in verse 23, and it's meekness and temperance. And meekness is that person who is considerate, mild manner, humble in a situation. They're not, they don't really want the accolades and the praise. It kind of makes them nervous. But they just stand back and let somebody else take the limelight. And they are just being considerate and mild-mannered in the midst of this situation, or in any situation that they're put in. So that's a meek person, is just a mild person. We know that Jesus he expressed meekness, and he had the ability to take care of these Pharisees and all the people that he encountered that were trying to get at him for wrong reasons. But he would deal with them in a meek manner, in a mild manner. He didn't have to retaliate with all kinds of lavish reactions, but he was mild. He was to the point. He wasn't weak. Meekness is not weakness. It takes a lot of restraint to be meek, to be a meek person. And then that leads us right into temperance. Temperance is that piece of fruit where you are actually having to use self-control. You are actually having to tell the flesh, I know you want to react badly in this situation, but flesh, you're not going to react badly. Flesh, I know you want this, but that's not good for us. And I'm going to use self-control, and I'm not going to go there. I'm going to purposefully look about situations where I am not tempted. I'm not going to put myself in circumstances where I'm going to be challenging my flesh. So that person that has that piece of fruit that's called temperance, they are holding it together, mastering something in their life that needed to be conquered. They are restraining their own self. You're not controlling somebody else. This is talking about yourself. This is your flesh. This flesh that's pulling you this way, or this flesh that's pulling you that way. And it's so hard. And this is not something that I have mastered, but it is something that I feel like the Lord is really trying to work in my life. He is trying to produce that fruit from my branches, and it comes from Him to use self-control. And no matter what the situation is being presented in front of you, to be in control. It's a very difficult piece of fruit to produce. In my life, it may not be hard for you. You may have wonderful self-control. You can stop the flesh from doing anything that you want it to do. I have a problem with self-control. I want to get better at that, and that's something that I am working on in my life. And so just go through these pieces of fruit. Think about each individual thing. Look at your own life. Evaluate your own life, and in prayer, because the Lord tells us in His Word that the heart is desperately wicked and deceitful above all things. Our own heart will deceive us. We cannot tell ourselves that we have something figured out. And if you let the Lord look at you, if you let the Lord examine your heart, He's going to say, no, you don't. You think you got that mastered, but you don't have that mastered. You're not producing. That's not fruit that you're producing from me. You got some bad fruit in there, and we need to get rid of that. So look at your self and ask the Lord to help you with that. Ask Him to show you, because if we try to look at within, we're gonna see what we want to see, and we want Him to look at it. We want Him to examine us, and we want Him to help us, because that's when you finally figure out you have a problem. That's when you can receive help. That person that's lost, that doesn't know that they're lost, doesn't admit that they're lost, until they know they're lost, they can't be saved. You could be out you could be hiking up in the mountains, and you think you're on the right trail, and you don't realize that if you've taken a wrong turn, you're not on the trail. The trail that you're on is taking you around the other bend and around into a cavern, and it's not taking you back to camp. You have gotten off the trail. Until you realize that you got off the trail, that you're missing the mark, that you were a sinner, until you see yourself a lost person, you won't even know that you need to be saved. So think about that in our own lives, that we need to examine things and do it from the Lord's perspective, because our heart is desperately wicked and deceitful above all things. Who can know it? God. He says right there in His Word, who can know it? The Lord. The Lord knows our heart, and we can ask Him to help us with every one of these pieces of fruit, and to help us with those that we have trouble with, because we want to produce fruit for Him, because He's using us to be a light to others, and we want the light of Jesus Christ to shine through our life. And when that happens, these pieces of fruit will come from our branches, and He's the source. He's the vine. This is not fruit that we're producing from ourselves, because we're just a branch. He's the vine. Thank you for sharing with me today. I look forward to seeing you again soon.